So I started documenting my day-to-day activities through the collection of receipts, tickets, stubs, and I started surrounding them, decorating these little memorabilia of the moment with the bottle caps and other adornment, ribbon, to just add color and vibrancy to these moments.
Let's just see what's inside, because I haven't opened this box for years.
And there is a picture of my house when I was graduating from high school. I lived in this house for 2 years. It's a winter day. There's a big dog. It's the St. Bernard named Gimlet. Now, without having put this picture in this box, I couldn't recall this moment. This house would never have come up in our conversation. Of course, Gimlet never would have come up in our conversation. So my life was in boxes. I wasn't on the ground in any way. Literally, I was working on the 35th floor. I was always on concrete. There was no nature in my life other than a view from the front of my building of Lake Washington. And I was 40, and I thought, what is happening to my life? Where has the potential of my life gone? And I thought to myself, this is not what I want my life to look like 20 years from now. So I started doing my morning pages, which was a writing practice that I had, as if I only had 100 days to live. And this was a significant change in consciousness for me. And after writing as if I only had 100 days to live, by the second or third day I knew I couldn't live these 100 days in this office. So I put in my 2 weeks notice and walked away from a career without any idea of what I wanted to do, other than I knew 100 days to live, I want to make art. So I thought, what do I have in my apartment that I can make art with? And I was a beer drinker, so I had beer bottle caps. And I was interested in this idea of sacred space and assemblage. And I also had boxes of photo albums, the story of my life that I had accrued since I was 16 and got my first camera. And I thought, these images are just sitting in boxes, they have great power. How can I incorporate them into my day-to-day life? So by taking photographs, mainly of family, and beer bottle caps, and memorabilia, old passport, Altoid containers, I began decorating this 4x4 post, which I went to Home Depot and bought a post and brought it into my little apartment. And then as I was waiting for my last day at the corporate job, I would work on this by hammering in these bottle caps into the post and cutting photographs up and applying them to these little boxes. And of course, while you're doing this, you're in your head and you're thinking, my gosh, I'm in transition. I am finally on my hero's journey. Not that I hadn't been on the hero's journey before, but I'm now consciously on my own. I'm not doing what society expected me to do. I'm not doing what my family expected me to do. I am doing what I want to do without even knowing what that is. I have begun. So it started with the cross. And I had no idea that it would turn into an art installation. I had no idea about anything. I just started. This cross represents my death and my resurrection, which is all of this art, all of the rest of this installation that followed the cross. This project helped me realize that my life was worthwhile and beautiful and could be decorated and shown as art. So, of course, this wasn't my original idea. I was using this work a bit as a healing process, and I had no idea what its significance was. But when you spend this much time on a project, your mind is working and layers of information become available to you, and over time, eventually 10 years on this project, I just had so much more information than I would have had I just come home from work and watched TV or whatever it is that people do when they finish their workday. As a matter of fact, it was early on working on the cross that I realized that one day the TV was on in the background, and I thought, oh my God, what noise and distraction is that? So I went and unplugged the TV and carried it out to the dumpster and threw it in the dumpster, and came in and picked up the remote control and took that out and threw it out, and I was done. That was the end of the TV. As time went by, it became clear to me that what I was creating was a chapel of my life. So I took it upon myself to borrow the conventional concept of chapel, the cross, the offering bowl, the altar, some different artifacts that you would find in a church sculpture, and finally the pulpit. The pulpit is the last piece of this installation. And on the pulpit I have my very first photo album rather than the Bible. The installation is called Family Offerings. So here, finally, is the photo album which shows my family in the place of honor, in place of the Bible or someone else's story. This is my story. This is what has value. Who was I, Dean, when I was 5 years old? Who was I, Dean, when I was 12 years old, 15, 20? Who was Dean when I was 30? These were all questions that I wanted to get to know as I was going through these photo albums and doing this work. And I realized Dean, the 6-year-old, is very concerned with what Dean, the 45 or Dean, the 50-year-old is doing. And Dean, the 50-year-old, is also concerned about Dean, the 6-year-old. So I started to realize that who I am today is not the same person as who I was at 6. Of course it is, but it just shifted my thinking. And now my idea was, am I the person who Dean, the 6-year-old, wants me to be now? I suddenly had a responsibility to myself from all of these earlier manifestations, just to do the right thing and to be true to something larger than myself at the moment. This would be the room that my funeral service would be held in. And then my ashes would be put in one of the drawers of the altar, and then the art piece would be complete. To make that happen in its entirety, I would have to keep documenting my life in this way till the end of it, and have arranged either through renting studio space or show space, commercial storefront space, to install it, and then have my funeral service in. If I was that clever, it would be pretty darn fascinating. Or to have it set up with prearranged with a museum as I was nearing the end of my life. We would install this installation at that point, and then when I died, the funeral service would be held in this installation, in this chapel. I would be interned in one of the drawers of the altar, and the art piece would be complete. And I always had the idea that it would be this top drawer that I would have my ashes. 15 years ago. Once I made the decision to start, it began. And often when people tell me, oh, I'm stuck in my life, I hate my job, my marriage isn't working, I want to do something different, all I can say is, well, start. Just start, do something.